Bienvenidos a otro programa de Ventana a la Historia y como dijimos la pasada semana, seguimos con temas interesantes en la historia universal. Y hoy tenemos con nosotros al doctor Wojciech Płosa, director del Archivo Histórico de Auschwitz-Birkenau, del antiguo campo de concentración de Auschwitz-Birkenau. Welcome to Cádiz, doctor Płosa. El doctor Wojciech Płosa es una de las personas que más conoce dicha documentación, dichos documentos, y tenemos el honor de que ha venido a Cádiz a darnos una conferencia en el Ateneo y vamos a realizarle una entrevista que será primeramente la pregunta en inglés y luego en español. Primeramente queríamos preguntarle, doctor Płosa, when was founded Auschwitz-Birkenau? ¿Cuándo fue fundado el campo de concentración de Auschwitz?
We don't have in our archival collection the document informing about the exact date of the foundation of the camp. However, we know that it was in spring night of 1940. This first part of the camp on the area of the former Polish military barracks started its activity in May of 1940, and on 14th of June 1940 the transport of the first Polish political prisoners was arrived, and there was the first part of the camp, because as you know the camp was wider during the period of the time, and from 1942 in the nearest area of Auschwitz I was found Auschwitz II, Auschwitz II Birkenau, the large concentration camp, and also the place where the gas chambers and crematoria were operated to annihilate the Jews from all over occupied Europe occupied by the Nazis. And also we have to remember that in Monowitz, other village near Oświęcim, from 1942, there was a chemical plant led by the German firm IG Farben. And also this plant, this chemical plant, was built by the prisoners. So on the area of Oświęcim and the nearest area of the camp, we have three parts of the camps, and they were active from 1940 till the January 1945.
1945. Dr. Płosa, who was the first commandant Nazi of this camp?
The first commandant, the founder of the camp, there was Rudolf Höss. Rudolf Höss was, of course, the member of Nazi Party, was the veteran of the First World War, and was the member before his service in the Auschwitz camp. He was the member of SS staff in other Nazi concentration camp in Dachau and in Sachsenhausen. He was the founder, he was the first commandant for spring 1940 till November 1943. After this date, he was transferred to Berlin, to the inspectorate of all Nazi concentration camps. But it is very
true. He returned to Auschwitz.
Yes. In spring 1944, when the action of the annihilation of the transports of the Jewish people from Hungary was started, so this time has returned to Auschwitz to oversee this action. After the war, he tried to hide on the area of the Germany occupied by the British soldiers, but he was discovered and he was extradited to Poland, and there was a process again. There's a trial against Rudolf Hess before the Polish Supreme National Tribunal. He was sentenced to death and hanged in April 1945. The gallows on which he was hanged was located just near the old crematorium on the area of the former Auschwitz I, opposite of the building where Hess had his own chancellery, his own office during his service in the camp.
We want to ask you a question. Why in Poland, Dr. Płosa? Why in Poland this camp? The Nazis decided this.
It of course not. There was several reasons, I think, and we can talk about the place. This place, this particular place, like Oświęcim, called in German Auschwitz, was the place located in the place around two rivers, the Vistula rivers and the Soła river. So rather in the area with not good climate, with very wet climate, but in this place there were buildings for this this first part of the camp, this Auschwitz I, the main camp, because this camp was located on the area of the former military barracks of the Polish army. So the area was enough. And also Oświęcim till today has a very good the train communications with other parts of the Poland. We have to remember also that in Poland, occupied by the Nazis, there was no Polish authorities. No Polish authorities even depend on the Nazis to stop,
to
control this activity. So the Nazis, we can talk, did what they want. And also we have to remember that on area of the pre-war Polish, there were 6 million of Jews. 6 million of Jews, and almost 3 million of them were dead. Not only in Auschwitz, but also in other camps or centers of the killing. But those places also were in occupied Poland.
Queríamos preguntarte, Dr. Płosa, ¿qué nos podrías decir sobre el Dr. Mengele? What can you tell us about Dr. Mengele?
Dr. Mengele was one of the most unfamous, I think, persons concerned with history of Auschwitz. He was called by prisoners Angel of Death because he was the doctor, he was the physician, he was the man who earned 2 PhDs, not only from medicine but also from philosophy. He was a very educated man. In the camp, prisoners remember it very well. In the camp, Mengele also was wearing in white, like a doctor. But he controlled the selections. He led the selections on the railroad. He decided who will be sent to the gas chambers, to the death, and who is suitable to go to camp to work. He also was the man who led completely unhuman pseudo-medical experiments on the prisoners of Auschwitz. His victims was mainly twins, Jewish twins, because he was interesting in this phenomenon of twins. He wanted to make to each Nazi woman could born twins, because the Third Reich, the German Nazi, wanted new men, new soldiers. So there is one field of his interesting, and the second was dwarfs. The little people, and also in this part of the camp for the gypsy, for the Roman prisoners, was the very seldom illness called noma. There is a ill of the cheek, and the cheek was destroyed by the cancer. It is very seldom illness concerned with the lack of the vitamin. And also Mengele was interested in such kind of experiments. Unfortunately, we don't have many information about this. However, several documents we have, the measures of his victims. We have orders for medical tests signated by his name, and we have also the plans of medical tests for twins. Point by point, Mengele described what kind of medical test should be led.
Purpose. When we want to ask you too, when was the camp of Auschwitz-Birkenau liberated at the end?
The Auschwitz camp was liberated by the Soviet Red Army on 27th of January 1945. Since the end of 1944, the Nazis prepared and led the evacuation of the prisoners. So almost everybody who was able to go, who was able to walk, marched from Auschwitz, and the highest wave of this evacuation started on 17th of January of 1945. Most of those prisoners were led to several towns around Oświęcim, on the area of the Upper Silesia, like Pszczyna, like Wojciech Śląski, and from there, by foot, and from there, by the train, they were sent to other Nazi concentration camps like Mauthausen, like Ravensbrück, like Sachsenhausen. So on the area of the liberated camps around Oświęcim, Auschwitz I, Auschwitz II, and Auschwitz III, there were around 9,000 of persons, of course very weak, exhausted, and the Polish Red Cross and the Soviet Red Army organized hospitals to save their lives.
Me estaba diciendo, le he preguntado que cuándo fue liberado el campo de concentración de Auschwitz, y me ha dicho que en enero de 1945 por el Ejército Rojo, por el Ejército Soviético, y bueno, ahora lo verán ustedes cómo encontraron a los presos, muy very weak, muy débiles, y cómo fueron reinstalados en algunos otros campos. Por último, nosotros queríamos preguntarle, doctor Płosa, what can do you receive a letter of many families of all prisoners? Recibe muchas cartas de prisioneros, de familias de antiguos prisioneros. ¿Qué puede decir? What can you tell you to the people are watching you?
First of all, I would like to thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great honor for me to be here in this wonderful country, in this wonderful city, to visit this place. My mission is to talk about the history of Auschwitz, to talk about the victims of the camp, and there is also the kind of the activity to commemorate these victims of the camp, and also to educate our generation and next generation, because talking about this tragedy, the tragedy of Holocaust, the tragedy of the Auschwitz, there is the way to educate about the tolerance in our time. In our times, I think. So I think that there is very important to have this opportunity to study the past, to study the history, because of this very important to remember about this tragedy today and in the future, to not reply this, of course.
Dziękuję bardzo, doctor Płosa. Witam to Spain. Muchas gracias al doctor Płosa y bienvenido a España. Esperamos verle en muchas nuevas ocasiones. We hope to see you again many times in Cádiz and in Spain. Dziękuję bardzo. Y señores, pues muchísimas gracias por asistir a este programa y nos vemos la semana que viene. Gracias.